Morning, everybody. This is True Demon, the Devil's Stockbroker here at Hell's Trading Floor. And if you can't tell by my voice, which I hope you'll excuse, I have COVID and I'm currently dealing with that. I'm doing okay. It's just a little bit difficult to talk right now, but we'll get through it. It's been a while since we did a stream, and I miss all the fun. So I figure I'd give everybody an update on what's going on, see what's up with Progenity and some of the other trading plays that we got here. Let's give everybody some time to jump in here. See, maybe we can go ahead and get another tweet out here so that we get everybody in here. Hey, everybody. Let's see. Yeah, I apologize for my voice. I'm trying to. I'll try to adjust some of the audio. If you just jumped in here, I have COVID, so my voice is a little bit raw. Okay. Let me see if I can boost this audio a little bit. Oh, my audio gain fell by more than half. No wonder you can't hear me. How's that? Y'all in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me a little bit better. All you in YouTube land. You know what? Let's triple that actually. And Kat, if you wouldn't mind, your settings got messed up too. Would you go ahead and say something just to greet everybody?
Check, check, check. 1, 2. Hello, hello.
One more time.
Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Check it. Wicked. Everett.
All right, I think that'll work.
Okay, cool.
All right. Okay. Went ahead and tripled all the audio settings. Now hopefully that'll fix everything. For whatever reason, those audio settings don't want to stay. OBS Studio, behave yourself. Okay, I think we got it now. What have I done with Jason? I don't know what's going on with Jason, guys. I'm sorry. He hasn't said anything to me. I don't know what's going on with him. I reached out to him on Discord, and he hasn't responded. He hasn't been online for several days. I hope he's okay, but I'm going to respect his privacy, and I'm not going to push or press him. And I guess that's all that I can say. I just don't know anything. I'm sorry. All right. So, Morning, everybody. I'm going to apologize in advance for everyone. I have COVID and I've got a bit of a hoarse voice right now. Um, I'm doing okay, just a little bit of a cough. I don't really have any other symptoms other than a sore throat, but uh, we'll get through it. I didn't want to be away for too long, and it's been way, way too long since we did a stream here and covered Progenity and some of the stuff going on in the stock market. So here we go. So for a start, we got Progenity down here, testing its lows, um, and I already know I'm gonna get I'm gonna get so much hate for this, but Wyckoff pattern. We we seem to be testing our next low point. So my guess here is that since we've had this double bottom on the daily, this is a long, outstanding daily chart. But or wait, let's see. Am I on? What are these candles set at? Kat, you're gonna have to help me here because I'm still getting used to trading view. Where do I set the daily versus minute candles? Oh, did I lose him? Ah, no big deal. We'll figure it out. Uh, yeah, all kinds of new changes are happening here. We've got um, we've got TradingView finally, so we're doing public charts. Everybody that wants to take a look at my charting, you can follow this link right up here. I'll even drop this here in the stream. So if you guys want to actually follow along with me, you're able to watch these charts change in real time. You can copy them for yourself. And as I go through my plays, if you have TradingView, then you can check these out. It does require a subscription to TradingView. Not sponsored or anything. I'm not with TradingView, but I would love to talk to them.
I'm so sorry. I just realized that was muted, but it's a top left corner right next to where it says PROG.
Oh, there it is. Oh, okay. So let's see. All right, we're on 30-minute candles. Okay, so let's look at the daily here. Oh, Jesus. That really scrambled it. Hold on. Oof. Okay, here we go. All right. So let's actually look at this on a 6-month time frame. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so here is our highs from like $6 and something odd cents, like 6.20, and we fell down to our an early low point at $2.11, and had an automatic bounce, and now we've tested two lows here, both at about $1.70, $1.70, $1.80. Thereabouts. That is the lowest point that we've seen since October, and we ripped past that point and never looked back. So clearly, we've established that this is a huge area of support. I keep hearing a bunch of people talking about there being some kind of a gap fill down here, and I don't see it. Like I don't know what people are talking about. I have not seen a gap down here, so we're calling this our strong line of support. Support below this is all the way down at $1.29, according to our automatic support and resistance levels. But this one's definitely a significant area of support since we've bounced off of it twice. And if you look at a Wyckoff accumulation chart, there's a good chance that this could actually be a spring and test. Excuse me. So if we are in the middle of a Wyckoff accumulation, which if you remember our conversations about on balance volume, when on balance volume is doing this rise and plateau thing that we see here, it's definitely a sign of accumulation where more shares are being bought and held than sold. So right now, this low point is an excellent time to average down. It's we are like at our strongest level of support, and we have a lot of room above us. There's a few areas of resistance between $2, 250, 280, and 3. So these areas of resistance will probably prove a challenge for us, but Assuming that we can get a nice breakout above $2 here in the short term, then we may yet see a rise in Progenity stock. We are waiting on catalysts. We currently have one in the works for January the 18th. Um, January the 18th, there's going to be a conference presentation hosted by Progenity at HC Wainwright. Um, that's a pretty popular conference for health and biotech stocks to present their business analysis and uh, any sort of major news that they have to share. So that's going to be a big catalyst for Progenity going into next trading week. If we expect some good news, that may be some results from their preclinical trials of Precludia, which they have so far withheld, and I don't know why. Nobody knows why, because that's expected to be very good news. My guess is if this is indeed an accumulation, then they're buddy buddy with their shareholders and letting them accumulate more shares out of the market at a slower pace while they hold on to some extremely good news and keep quiet until an ideal moment so that their shareholders can make a good amount of money. That's just speculation on my part. Obviously, I can't prove it, and this isn't financial advice, just like everything else on this channel. But that's just my thoughts. So that's about it for Progenity. For those who are asking, do I see it falling down, breaking down to that supposed gap that I do not see at $1.35? I don't see that happening. That seems really unlikely to me. Um, if there was a gap, then it would be way back here, and that was already filled shortly after during the dilution event that took place in October. So this gap fill, that's the only gap that I saw, and it was already filled by the dilution event. So I don't see that as I don't see that as an area of risk. This is currently our strongest level of support, which we've bounced off multiple times, and now we're looking to make a new rise and break above $2. So timeline for that we'll say is about 35 days to 60 days for us to break above $2. I honestly think it'll happen sooner than that, but we always, those of us who play options should always give ourselves more time than we think we need. So that'll be it for Progenity.
And just a small side note, because
Yeah.
a couple people pointed it out as well, and I think I kind of spotted it. There is a small kind of crooked gap fill. It's right at August 20th, if you take a look at the daily candles. And still,
August
I mean, I
20th.
would assume it would hold its current level of support, so I agree with you there, but I think there's
Oh,
a gap there.
this one way back here, that's so far back, honestly. And it's below and it's below our current level of support. So, yeah. So this is what everybody's talking about. All right. Well, whatever.
Yeah, and it's a
Um
weird one too, just because it does have like a little bit of it has like support within the mid range of the gap too. So even if it were to hit, I feel like it would hit support before it hit the bottom of it. But just me personally.
if it fell that far, I guarantee there would be, well, I can't guarantee anything actually, so I'll take that back, but if it did actually gap down like by some stroke of bad luck, then I imagine it would create an automatic bounce because that's too big of a gap. Like, remember what volume they were trading at before this? They were trading at like, what's the volume here on these candles? They were trading at less than 500,000 shares a day uh, before that, and then notice that after that massive sell-off, they started trading immediately above 10 million every single day, and that was consistent. Well, let's see, about 5 million every day on average. So, and the volume continued to rise throughout that period. So now there's more eyes on Progenity than ever, and we're still trading at that current level. I just don't see it falling that far. It would be too difficult for anyone to push it down that far. And if they were going to push it down that far, it would be because of some negative catalyst. There would have to be some bad news to drive it that far down. I just don't see
Right.
as
Because I
too
mean,
many
just
good
on
things
market
going.
cap alone, I mean, they're worth 311. If they got down to 70 cents, I mean, they'd be almost sub 100 million, which is like, there's no way they're worth, that little of an
Yeah,
amount,
and they have what, like over $200 million in cash on hand now. So I need to check those numbers, but I remember that after the proceeds from all of their from all the dilutions that they made throughout this period, then there's they have enough cash on hand to get them through for the next year and a half. So I'm really not concerned. Anyway, we've been talking about Progenity for quite a while, so why don't we jump into the next one? I guess I'll go ahead and take this time to welcome a new guest on the channel. We currently have a fantastic analyst team that we've been building out, and I want to bring on Occam's Phaser to talk about his most recent play that he picked out off of Unusual Whales and um, through a couple of other data points. Occam, welcome.
Welcome. How you guys doing?
Doing great, man. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Uh,
Would you mind
a little,
speaking up into the microphone? I can see that you're coming in a little bit quiet.
yeah. Let me see if this. Let me see if I can adjust here. Sorry, I should have probably tested this before we got on.
Oh, no worries.
But is that a little better?
That's way better. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, first of all, honored to be here. Thank you for having me as part of the team.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, man.
yeah. So Nvidia, just been watching this one for a couple months, so kind of starting to get a good feel on how she moves. But recently there wasn't a lot of options activity leading into the new year and kind of at the beginning of last week. But just a few days ago, I think it was on the 7th, which would have been Monday, that there was quite a bit of the 280s that were coming in. And like today, currently, if you get over to Unusual Whales and you look at your premium range, anything above $25,000 as of right now, today you've got a 72% bullish volume coming in.
Yeah, let's
Um,
take a look at that.
and yeah, and the premium 72% on the premiums as well. So right now there's a lot of I guess what are we sitting at currently on Nvidia? We're at 276. So there is a lot of activity out of the money, not a lot of in the money seen live flow. Uh, but just kind of backing up to yesterday, let me pull up my trading view. I did post,
And if you could, Occam, actually, I'd love to see your charting on this one. Would you mind sharing with us your the link to your trading view chart? That way, everybody can see this.
sure, yeah, give me just one moment to jump over to my web browser to grab the link. Hold on one moment.
And for those who don't know, Occam, some of you may recognize him from Jason's Discord. He recently jumped over and joined us here to help us out. Um, still uh, still getting to know each other a little bit, but so far, Occam's been calling out some amazing plays for both days and day trades and swing trades. So as we continue to build out the analyst team here on Hell's Trading Floor, we're uh, we're looking forward to seeing more of his work here on the channel.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just one second. I'm trying to grab this link.
No worries, man. Take your time.
There it is. Where am I going to throw this up at? Just
You can go ahead and send it in Film Studio chat.
from Studio Chat. Okay, there you go.
Fantastic.
Let me know if that works.
Whoops. Let me see if I can.
Doesn't
Oh,
work.
it was
Oh.
because it's because Discord converted it to another link. 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. This is giving me mad appreciation for anyone that does live streaming. This is a lot of things to pay attention to on these. Got so many windows open right now.
It gets a little bit hectic sometimes, but you know what? It works. It works. All right.
Yeah.
I see we got it now. Awesome. So you'll be able to control everything in your screen, and everybody that's watching live, you're watching my stream, but basically whatever is happening on screen is all being done by Occam's phaser, and he'll be able to update these charts. And anybody that wants to take a look is able to copy this link up here at the top. Feel free to take a look at this. I'll drop this in the YouTube chat. And Occam, I'll take this opportunity to point out. I believe that you were talking about creating a channel of your own. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. That's it might be a thought for the future, yes, but we'll see how that goes. Maybe we do a few of these and see how I feel about live streaming.
All right, man. Well,
Yeah.
in the meanwhile, we're happy to have you on and talk about some of these plays. So, what do you see going on for NVIDIA? Take it away.
Okay. Well, yesterday, just right before market open, of course, looking at the pre-market, seeing Nvidia gapping down from Friday on the 7th, came up with some levels that I really have been tracking for a while, but I was calling out, to consider doing puts under that 269.5 level, which it did, of course, reach by the time I think I even tweeted this out. Can you guys see my crosshairs on the screen, or does it not
No,
allow
they'll
for?
just see they'll just see any live updates to the charts. So once you change
Okay,
something, then they'll see that.
so right, I don't know, right here. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
So this is where it was gapping down yesterday, and again backing up into last week, not seeing a lot of bullish momentum in terms of the options activity. So once it kind of crossed down below this 271 level, down into the 269.5, it was in my mind a good idea to get puts, but unfortunately the pre-market didn't really allow for that to happen. So it did come up immediately at the bell, but that to me was a very good bullish sign that it came all the way back up to that level, that 269.5 level. And as it currently is sitting today, it's testing that 277, 278 level. And we're seeing the 280s. And let me pull up unusual whales again real quick. We're seeing the 280s coming in real hot and heavy. Let me see if there's anything that's come in live. Most recent, we've got 7.5, $28,000, $33,000 on some 280 buys, and those seem to be just coming in one after another today. You've got a 54% bullish premium overall just on today's trades on the options flow. So in my mind, you're probably going to start seeing some profit taking at 280, but as that changes over the next couple days, there might be some rolling out up into the 285s or 290s, which there is a inkling of.
Hmm.
um, I believe there is. What was the unusual whales alert set out for
It
today? Was
was the unusual whales alert was for 291 and a half strike
Yeah,
expiring
right.
this Friday.
Yeah,
So
short expiry. Yeah.
yeah, and
So
I went ahead and filtered out some of this. So for those who aren't familiar with unusual whales, we're looking at currently any premium paid for more than $250,000. And we're specifically looking for days to expire or days to expiration at a maximum of 60 days. You could make this shorter, but what we're basically doing is we're looking for any whales that are placing huge bets, especially on out the money calls. That's very telling of what the big money is expecting to move. And currently, we see a lot of calls that are these are a bit deep in the money for like $1 million or more, but we're also seeing things that are out the money like 280, 300, and some of these are cross trades, which are just they're it's kind of like uh, crossover exchange trades. So these are huge money trades that are happening in the market for deep out the money calls, and these are expiring in 10 days. So for like for these to go in the money, for these to be profitable, would require them to move, what is this, like 10, 12% underlying stock price within 10 days. So this is a
Right.
huge bet right here, like
Yeah, and I'm
big
I'm
gamble.
curious on the 292 and a half. Actually, I'm surprised I haven't looked at this yet, but I haven't looked at the open interest in full. If we go down to the chains and look at, I'm sorry, what was that? Was the 121 expiry or the
Yeah,
114?
that's 114.
114.
And if you notice, the volume suddenly ratcheted up this morning, more than 8,500 trades on these contracts just today, and that's up by more than 400% since yesterday, which these have been starting to steadily rise throughout last trading week. Before, there was nobody making these trades because NVIDIA was in free fall at that time. Now, all of a
Right.
sudden, we're seeing a rebound, and now we're seeing like excess of $2 million trades, like lot
Yeah,
sizes
the
greater than 5,000 shares for in the dark pool. So these are big money trades, a lot of movement happening here. And of course, this is a Nancy Pelosi trade. So a lot of speculation around this one. And I'm more than eager to trade on the Nancy Pelosi ETF because she is by far the best stock trader I have ever seen.
that she is. Yeah, those 292 and a halves, the volume reported today so far 9309, open interest 1889. So that just my gut is telling me that's being created
Mm-hmm.
necessarily that was something that closed out because sometimes you can be on unusual whales and it will be a little tricky on you have to really look at the open interest and the volume and track that because it might look like a bullish bet but they might be closing out and then you
Right.
have to try to kind of determine the psychology behind that to understand, well, are they still in it, have they rolled somewhere else, or is their money just out of the market at that point?
Right, right. That's one of the biggest problems with reading unusual whales is that it's easy to see like all these calls being opened up and say like, oh, this is fantastic. Like these are all buys, but you don't necessarily know if they're buy to open or if they're buy to close, meaning that they sold calls before and they're closing them now for a profit. So any of those situations could completely change the narrative of the bet.
Right, like that sell that's on your screen, the 310 sell put. There is the buy sell to close button next to the NVIDIA ticker to the left.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's your that that they'll sometimes give you the buy to open, sell to open indication, but a lot of the times you have to make that determination yourself.
Right on.
Yeah.
But these are actually it's funny now that we highlighted this trade. It's very interesting that we see two separate bets. One of them, apologize, we see two separate bets that are supposedly possibly related. I would say that these are very interesting. Like, let's see, the expiration is late February. If Nvidia rises above $300 before mid to late February, these would fall in value significantly, and the trader
Mhm.
could close these out by buying their puts back. at a massive profit and capture that premium.
Yeah, I like how they have that visualize. You can visualize the trade down there, pull it up, kind of see how it is that they can make money or lose money.
Oh, that is really cool. This is my first time seeing this on Unusual Whales. There's
Yeah.
all kinds of new stuff being thrown up in here. That every single time I look at Unusual Whales, there's something new to look at.
Oh yeah, they've got all kinds of new updates.
That's
Like
awesome.
right now, I'm on the what is this? The historical flow for NVIDIA, and I'm down at the chains, and it gives you you can select your expiry and your strike, and it actually gives you some really nice visual graphs instead of just the data column layout.
Yeah, these right here. That's really nice. We'll have to take a look at some of these in future plays on the channel for sure.
Hmm.
Let's go catch up with the chat and see what everybody else is looking at the moment. Lewis Julian wants to know if we can show how to determine if it was closed. So you kind of have to make that determination on your own. Sometimes Unusual Whales will be able to tell you if it was BTO or STO. That's buy to open, sell to open. So if it's a buy order, it would be bought to open. But this is a sell order, so it was sold to open, meaning it's adding uh, options interest or open interest to this particular options contract.
Right.
Um, you can also kind of make this determination that if it's a large enough options bet, or if you see a series of options bets that are significant enough, you can look at the historical OI or historical open interest. What you're looking for is to find if options or open interest is rising, then trades are being opened. If it's falling, then they're being closed or exercised. So you can look at that sort of stuff like on bar chart, or you might be able to figure it out if you have live options data on a trading platform like Webull, for example. Um, and sometimes Unusual Whales can let you know.
If you click into the, I'm sorry, do you mind me jumping
Yeah,
in
no,
for
go
one
ahead.
second? If you click the expiry date in blue on the contracts,
Mm-hmm.
say that put that we're on, if you click that, that'll start to give you a little bit of a breakdown of its historical OI. Of course, you can go open that further, and I think you can go back like 3 months on its historical OI
No
if
kidding.
you go into another page. But yeah, that'll kind of give you a visual of like right now what I'm seeing is that there was on the 7th a lot of volume 10, and there was open interest created, which was reflected on the 10th, and then more volume today on the 11th, greater open interest. So open interest is being created, but hence that sell to open button being
Right.
there. Yeah.
Thanks. I didn't even know that this existed. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And so whenever just in general, whenever I'm looking at big trades, and I see like a $1.3 million buy on the 230 call, 121, you really want to. The first question in my mind is look at the creation. Where did the open interest come from? How long has it been there? And is it going away? And that'll start to really clarify the psychology behind the trade.
Thanks, man. That's incredibly insightful. And thanks for showing me around the interface a little bit more. I have obviously not played around with Unusual Whales enough. I've been working with basically just the data table and playing
Nice.
around with like the premiums and the days to expiration, bid and ask, and stuff like that, just to find the uh, the trends that I'm looking for. But it's easy to trick yourself into a bunch of confirmation bias looking at it like that. So having a more
Sure.
holistic view of the different data charts as calls are being opened and closed, or
Right.
puts, as the case may be, it's really helpful. So thanks. I didn't even know that you could click into some of this stuff. I'm kind of embarrassed now. Like I didn't
Oh,
realize that these were actually links to open up the chart. That's so cool.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I am no master of unusual whales. It is a constant learning curve. I pick up on something new almost every day navigating.
That is wild. Like even just this, I'm so glad I clicked into this one in particular. Like look at these NVIDIA calls being opened up here. Like the
Mm,
volume on
yeah.
this is massive, and this is for this Friday. So
Wow.
there's huge bets going on down here.
See.
I'll go ahead and disclose one of my trades. I opened up a NVIDIA call spread for next Friday. Um, it's a debit spread for 290, 292 and a half. So that's a bullish bet. It's currently down right now by about 20%, and just because we're currently seeing a little bit of volatility, which is unfortunate. It looks like I kind of top ticked it a little bit, so I should have been patient and picked it a little bit of a better time, but it looked like it was about ready to make a run, so I wanted to get in. So I took a bad fill, and that's what I get for chasing. But we'll still see what happens here. The volume on this is really nice. Open interest is being created, so obviously a lot of these calls are being created for high speculation, and I'm guessing that somebody knows something because someone always knows something. So thanks a lot, Occam. Really appreciate that. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other plays that we've got going on here. So Senseonics, we've been waiting on for a little bit. I recently did an update video on Senseonics mentioning that they are showing that they are announcing that their FDA application is quote officially under review now. So hopefully Senseonics will receive their news of an FDA approval very soon here. I would expect it to be within 60 days. It may take longer than that, but I would hope that since the FDA has come forward and said that they're going to prioritize catching up on their outstanding reviews that have been waiting for, in Senseonics' case, more than a year now. So currently, Senseonics is at its support at it's been bouncing off of the 250 level for quite a while now. It broke down at the close of this wedge after a very short breakout, and it's been just consolidating ever since we entered into the month of December. Completely fell out with the market when we had that dropout in November. So we'll see what happens, but I'm still bullish for the long term on Senseonics. The continuous glucose monitor technology that they have is outstanding. So I'm looking forward to seeing what'll happen to their stock price once they get that FDA approval on their 180-day product. We have another request for ISIG, excuse me, Insignia Systems. Ooh, oh, that's nice. Oh, that's quite a move. Let's look at this on the 30-minute chart. Oh yeah, ISG has been on a roll this week. Made a nice move today. Got to check how much this is that it's made since this morning. Wow, moved by more than 8% today. So that's a fantastic move. So if I'm looking at the technicals, let's go ahead and draw this out really quickly for everybody. Looks like we're getting ready to touch the top of this resistance here. I'll have to adjust this a little bit. Well, we're coming up to a close on a bullish pennant or a very large wedge here. If I'm a betting man, this looks like another Wyckoff accumulation, which is pretty classic. Like if you look for these in the market, you'll see them everywhere. They happen all the time. It's not a rare pattern, but with the volume dropping out, we get these little pops in between, and the price starts to move with them. And then all of a sudden, as the volume drops way out, now suddenly we've got massive buying volume, and it closed out 65% gain shortly after Christmas. Now we've got the OBV rising after a long plateau here, and it looks like it's getting ready to make another move again. So I'll be looking to see if it breaks out above 29. I'm not in this play, so right now it looks like it's a little bit late. The time to get in would have been back down here at around $20 between 2022. If you're in this, fantastic, good for you, man. I'm gonna stay out of this one because it's getting ready to touch that resistance. So the risk to reward for me is just not good enough. Um, if you do get in, you're risking about $4.50. Um, and if we do see a breakout here, expect it to relax a little bit and maybe consolidate here at the top. But if you do get that breakout, then who knows where this thing might go. So if you see this thing, yeah, let it run. Congratulations.
Just a side note on SEMS as well. I was taking a peek at the flow while you were pulling that up, and it looks like actually about within the last couple hours, but specifically 10 minutes ago, someone did a relatively large sweep for the 250s. Let's see, 250 sweep, 30,000 in premium, higher than the current open interest, and then there was another way at the same time for the same amount.
Wow, that's quite a bet. That's actually my bet. I mean, not I did not open this. I
I
did
was
not
going to
open
say, are
this
you the
trade.
unusual whale?
I am not the unusual whale, but I made this same exact bet. I opened this exact same call option about a week ago. So um, I I
Also,
I do not have enough money to buy. I wish I had that kind of money that I could just throw down like 480 call options on Senseonics. I would love to do that. But no, sadly, I'm just sitting pretty on some 250 and some $3 calls, both expiring February 18th. Um,
and if you take a look at, if you knock down your premium to about 1,000 to 2,500, you'll see a bunch of other sweeps that came through as well within a relatively similar time frame.
ooh, this looks like somebody's got some speculation going on. So Senseonics is looking very healthy. I'm actually really excited about that. See, somebody always knows something. I have no doubt that this has to do with their FDA approval. This is this is good. I'm excited. Now I'm excited.
All right. Well, not financial advice. I just bought a bunch of 250 calls.
If I had any more money, I would buy some more calls. But
I'd say a
sadly, I'm
bunch. I
tapped
bought
out.
like six. Well, not really a bunch, but
I mean, I have leaps for 2023. I bought those earlier this year, and I've just been sitting on those. They've been bleeding out. If I had money to average down on them, I absolutely would because those leaps are cheap. If so, not financial advice, but if you're playing a stock like this, it's a highly speculative biotech stock that has that has like any kind of catalyst that's building up for it. They're trading at such a super low price, and you know that the company has value or it will have future value. Then it is absolutely worthwhile. If you're going to bet on a company like that and buy shares, you may as well buy calls for the same price because I was able to buy 50-cent strike leap options for January 2023 for $1 a piece. So for $100, I can lock in my entitlement to purchase 100 shares each of this, and that gives me a full year for my trade to be correct. And because I bought in the money, there's intrinsic value in that. So no matter what happens, as long as the company doesn't go bankrupt, which if you're going to buy shares, you're taking that same risk anyway, as long as it doesn't go bankrupt, then those calls will be worth something by the time that they expire. But if you're right on your bet, then every single dollar that it moves up, you are gaining both intrinsic and extrinsic value. And leap options can make such substantial gains in such a short amount of time. It's just stupid. So if you're playing these highly speculative stocks, especially biotech that you don't know what the time frame is for their data to be released. If you're waiting on an FDA approval, but you have extreme faith in them as a company, leaps are an excellent way to go. And even for like blue chip stocks, leaps are a really excellent strategy because long term they'll tend to pay out. And I learned this watching In the Money on YouTube. I don't know him personally, I've never talked to him, but I did learn a lot from him watching his videos. And he has an excellent video on leaps are supreme. Look it up, and it's a fantastic video to learn the advantages of leaps. It's just absolutely fantastic.
No, I was gonna say, like as a person, I've never messed with leaps before, but I'm actually very curious about them. So, how are they? Is it a different like actual mechanism than the options chain, or is it just literally going years out on options?
Yeah. So let me go ahead and pull up an example here. We'll just go and look at bar chart. There's probably a better system to look at this. Oh wow, Senseonics moved 5% today. I didn't even see that on TradingView's chart. I didn't notice. All right. So let's look at some of these options for in the money calls. Currently we've got January 21st coming up here, and 50-cent calls, like they're basically like neutral with the share price. The delta on these is going to be like almost the exact same, and what that means is that like you're basically every call you're purchasing, you're only you're almost at break even. So whatever you pay for the calls is going to be like almost exactly the same as you would pay just buying the shares at their current trading price. Excuse me, I gotta clear my throat. Sorry about that. But let's go ahead and jump out to let's say 2023, January 20th. If we look at the ask, it's about 50 cents more for these. So the delta is a little bit smaller. And because these are so far out, you're basically risking like, what if the company goes bankrupt and these will be worthless? But think about the likelihood of that happening with Senseonics and their current fundamentals and the catalysts that they have going for them at the moment. Like, even though these are currently down 13% just based on volatility, because it's you leaps are a little bit strange when it comes to volatility. Leaps are actually somewhat inversely related to IV. When stocks get more volatile, then there's greater uncertainty with the option the farther out the expiration is. So sometimes the volatility can actually cause the value to go down, which is it's really weird how it works out like that. But when you're buying these leaps, the idea is that you do not want to sell them. You want to exercise them. So what you're doing is you're guaranteeing yourself a good price, and by buying a deep in the money leap, you lower your risk, you lower your break even, and you set your expiration out so far that you give yourself the absolutely best opportunity to be correct. And even if we like extended this out another year, like take a look at the ask. The ask is currently 250. Let's jump out to 2024, and the ask is only 40 cents more. So, like, why would you not take that? in 2 years, you give yourself 2 years to be right, that Senseonics suddenly takes off and you're entitled to buy 100 shares at 50 cents per option for every option that you buy. And by doing that, you guarantee yourself a good price in the future as long as the company doesn't go bankrupt. Unless this company gets delisted from Amex or they get bought out or something like that, then you're guaranteeing yourself a good price. And unless something absolutely catastrophic happens to this company in the next 2 years' time, you give yourself so much opportunity to be correct. And even an even more exciting part of this is that, like, say that the company like does actually get uh, their partnerships, or some huge catalyst comes out, or they overtake Dexcom, whatever. Like this, we'll just speculate wildly. Just say that Senseonics is it eventually becomes like a triple digit company. Those calls will be worth so much more, just considering, like, with the puts it's inversely related, so it's hard to guess based on these current prices. But say that Senseonics in the next year moved by 10, 20, $30, then you would see the value of these rising by 2,000, 3,000, 4,000%. A good example of this is, there was a kid that took a gamble on Tesla calls and he bought leaps that were deep out the money. So he got a better fill. Like, I think it was when Tesla was trading around $7, and he bought Tesla calls for, like, I don't remember what the price was, but it was like really far out the money. They had like a 90% chance of completely completely bombing out and just expiring worthless. And he bought them for like $420, and I'm not joking about that figure. He's just like 420 on Tesla, and that was the bet that he took. But he was right, and Tesla rose to like, it went to like $150, and his calls were so far in the money. They were like $100 in the money, and he made himself a millionaire overnight, just with that wild crazy bet, just taking a chance on a small cap company that he thought had a really good idea. And if I had known about options, like, I would have been that kid too. Like, I bought when Tesla was trading at 150. I bought one share of it, and then their stock split, and I got 5 shares out of that, and I went from a $150 bet to $3,000 by the time that I closed out those shares and sold them back. So, and that was just because, like, I was working a desk job that paid me shit, and that was all that I was able to afford. So, like, these leaps are indeed supreme. It's absolutely the king of options trades. Patience in the market affords you so much more of a chance to be right. And even though you buy shares, you can take away the risk that the shares will at least be worth something. But with leaps, you're taking that same bet. You are still betting that they will be worth something by going deep in the money like this, but your leverage is multiplied by 100 times. So imagine if you took this bet and said that, like, I want 100 contracts for Senseonics at 50 cents strike, and they go to $10, then you're entitled to, what is that, 10,000 shares for 50 cents, so $5,000, and you can sell them back for $10 a piece. So you can turn $5,000 into, see, 10 times 10,000, $100,000, from $5,000 to $100,000 if you're right, and the stock price goes from where it's currently trading now to $10. So just let that sink in, settle in on that, and think about it, and consider companies that you really feel are in the next year or 2 years or 5 years going to be worth oodles and caboodles more than what they are trading at currently, then it behooves you to, take that chance. Don't bet the farm, but, if you have a portfolio of several $1,000s and you have this one company that is like highly speculative, but you think is worth something or will be worth a lot of money in the future, go ahead, buy some leap options. Like that's a fantastic way to do it. That's what I'd be doing with Prog now. Like Prog is so low, and the leap options on Progenity are so cheap.
Okay, you sold me. I just bought my first leap. Not financial. I did the Sens one because I mean that makes. I was looking at it. I was like, wow, sounds the 50 cent leaps are literally $200 for 2024. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I'm like,
yeah.
why
So
not? Right?
look at Progenity. Currently, the in the money 50 cent strikes. I have a $2 ask right now. Why don't we go ahead and jump out to 2024, January 19th, just for the giggles? The ask is actually cheaper. The
I
ask
don't.
is actually cheaper. It's a
Yeah,
dollar 90.
I'm gonna buy
So
some.
yeah,
If you don't mind me jumping in one more time, you literally what you just said about sins and the leaps, you're describing my psychology behind Ford. It's exactly how I've been applying leaps to Ford.
yeah,
And I was going to say also to kind of circle back around as well, we were talking about unusual whales flow. So for people who are learning it as well as us and everyone else, when we're seeing obviously big money come in, traditionally we see a lot of in the money. We don't usually see multi-million dollar bets like crazy out of the money because
yeah,
hedge funds don't like that. You know what I mean? So we can only assume when you see like, oh, $80 Apple calls for like 2024, that's probably the same idea. Like you're putting in the leaps in order to exercise long ways down the road, right?
right, exactly. And it's one of those bets where like yeah, you're of course taking a risk by like setting out your money that far aside, but if you're thinking about these investments for the long term, and honestly, it's so much less stressful. I did day trading for a while when AMC and GME were like at their peak of volatility and things were going crazy. And I was like, I'm going to be rich overnight. And I was for a second. And then I immediately lost that. And you know what? It trained me to stay away from that mentality of swinging in and out of things too quickly and being super risky with my money. Leaps give you so much peace of mind because even if, like, say, there was some bad news that hit like next week and suddenly the price just dropped out from underneath me, and it went to, and say Progenity went to $1. I'll just use that as an opportunity to average down. I'll go ahead and
Mhm.
buy these I'll buy these for a buck a piece. The dollar strike would then immediately go down. The dollar strike for 2024 would immediately go down to like roughly a buck a piece. It's almost net with the shares. But as soon as you get closer to expiration and once the price has already left it far behind, like you're posting such a small amount of capital and levering it by 10 times, and you give yourself this such a good chance to be right. Like if you want to buy shares and collect dividends, great. That's its own strategy that's well worth looking into. But if you want to lever your trades and you want to take a chance on a company that you think is going to be worth gold in the future and it's only going to take a few years, take a chance on some deep in the money leaps. And like imagine if you took that chance on Amazon or Tesla or Ford or IBM, whatever. Like as soon or Shopify. Like Shopify was $100 2 years ago. If you had bought leaps now, like if you sold those leaps what they're worth now, if you bought at the money leaps in Shopify from 2 years ago, you'd be a millionaire. And it would have cost you, I mean, I don't have the math in front of me, but it would have cost you thousands by comparison to take that trade. Like with the paycheck that I earn, I could take that bet, I could save up a little bit of money and I could take a bet like for $1,000 and set my trade out for 2 years and just let it ride, it's so much less stressful than day trading. And if you are day trading, then that's totally fine. Like, I'm not judging anybody for day trading. I think that's totally okay as long as you're able to handle the stress of it. But I have to say it is stressful, and anybody feel free to disagree with me. Um, but I just like the idea of setting my investments really far out, and it doesn't matter if I see them fall by 50% in the short term. I'll just average down, and that's a good discount for me. And I did that exact same thing with Sens. I forget exactly how many. I'll go look at my books here. I have 25. I have 25 calls and Sens that expire January 2023, and they're for 50-cent strike. They're currently trading at an ask of $2.45, and you know what? That's cool. Those are down 30%. Don't care. I went and used that opportunity to. I can use that opportunity to buy a little bit more. And if I decide to do that and I'm wrong, then, well, I'm going to be out a few $100. But if I'm right and Senseonics ends up going to $10, $20 in the next year, that's not outside the realm of reality. It's entirely possible for stocks to move by 200, 300% over the course of a year. That they do that, and that's a more natural move for a company that's just fundamentally doing really well. So some things for people to consider.
Yeah, and then frankly, I feel silly that I haven't really investigated this much more before, because this makes entirely too much sense not to do. It seems.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, somebody was asking about short interest on Senseonics as well, because they were asking if it was a short squeeze play. Um, if I recall correctly, the last time that I looked at it, Senseonics was in fact a short squeeze play. Currently, their short interest is at 29% almost, so that's significant. The cost to borrow is still pretty low, but that's just because the utilization is now 96. If I remember correctly, I was looking at this about a week or two ago. Their utilization, what was it? Their utilization skyrocketed. It was like at 90, 92. Yeah, between 91 and 92. So the utilization's ramped up significantly. We're going to start to see the cost to borrow follow suit. So the cost of borrow is going to start going up. Senseonics has got a big catalyst coming up. So this is actually a really good time to consider a long investment in Senseonics, in my opinion. I've been invested in them for a long time. I've got a few thousand shares myself, and I've got leaps, as well as a few calls for the short term, just as a little bit of a swing trade. I'm expecting their news to hit this month or maybe late February at the latest. But assuming that Senseonics gets their FDA approval, I know that they are going to be a very profitable company. I know that they're going to. I know that they're going to continue to survive. They have excellent partners through Panasonic Holdings, and they've got an excellent partner in Essentia who's helping work through their insurance partnerships, as well as marketing them out to Europe and soon the United States. So lots of opportunities there, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. Let's see, what else can we chat about? I think that I probably have to close out the stream here very soon. I'm going to have to, unfortunately, get back to work. I wish that I could spend more time doing these, but I've got a microscope on me right now, so I'm only able to spend like maybe an hour or two out of the day on this. You know what? Let's look at AMC. I'm waiting for. Oh, you know what? I'm going to save AMC for last. Okay. We're going to look at Pfizer. This is a potential partner for Progenity, and I've been looking at their chart. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of some of this just because it's a little messy. So one of the things that I was looking at with Pfizer's chart, I went ahead and I set a high to high to high and a low to low Fibonacci timeline, and I've been looking at how they've lined up, and it does actually work out that the Fibonacci's have been lining up, at least in recent months, to the recent lows and new highs. So this one is probably going to be a little bit off. It's still a very recent pattern, and it's not guaranteed to work out. But I'm just kind of working with it and seeing how these fib timelines work out. Pfizer is in this wedge, and given what we've given the news with Omicron, there's a lot of hope in Pfizer to be the first one to come up with a more effective booster shot. Excuse me. Sorry, I gotta clear my throat again. But with Pfizer going into this wedge and the Fed meeting currently slapping their recent gains down, I'm expecting there to be some volatility coming out of this wedge. Now, Pfizer has been an absolute rock star this entire year, going into from November onward. They've been doing absolutely fantastic. But every single time that Pfizer has some exciting news in regards to their boosters or anything for their COVID treatments, it just goes bananas. So there were some unusual whale prints for February and January 21st. And at the close of this wedge, we've got January 21st coming up. So I am hoping that what we're witnessing here is the formation of a cup. And if that hits resistance here at the top of this wedge, then I expect a handle to form and then a breakout from there. And if that is the case, then we can enter into a new run going into February. Hence why I went ahead and grabbed February calls also. Further to that, the OBV is diverging. So even though they got smacked down a little bit, the OBV didn't quite follow as much as with the extreme of the price action. And it leveled out very quickly, and now it's starting to curl and show a little rise in the OBV. The RSI has cooled off after its recent move this morning, so we'll see what happens in the near term. But I'm expecting Pfizer to make a move here, and for those unusual whales calls to print. Currently, those calls were for $60 for February, $60 and $65 for February, and I believe there was $60 calls for January 21st. It's a little bit close to expiration though, so if you are planning on opening a position, I would do myself the favor if it were me to just stick to opening up further out expirations for now. You give yourself more time, better chance to be right, and a little bit less exposure to the volatility and more theta. You always give yourself, if you can afford it, to buy a little more theta so that you don't lose the value of your calls before expiration. And finally, the usual rock star of the show, AMC. Let's go ahead and take a look. So AMC still getting smacked a little bit, but I noticed an interesting pattern in that AMC formed a double bottom here, and the OBV is beginning to curl. Let me go way out here to the daily chart and scale it out the full year. So AMC has had a consistent pattern of big squeeze and then we got to redraw this based on my Webull chart from before. So consistently, AMC has done made a couple of consistent patterns throughout both of its squeezes, and this is definitely the more extreme of them. But I won't be able to draw it over here. It'll be too much messing around, I think. But this same pattern of AMC taking a big squeeze and then falling all the way back down and forming this bullish pennant or this long wedge. This also follows a lot of Wyckoff accumulation patterns. if you zoom in on this, there's a slight breakdown that occurs in these. Let me change the color of this so that people can see it a little better. Ugh. Lines are a little bit messy. I'm sorry, guys. Ugh. And no matter what color I pick, it's just not good. You'll just have to trust me that this wedge, what we've seen with AMC is it'll rise to the top, and that forms the very top of the wedge, and the bottom is its first rise past its previous resistance. This happened back in December, right before the January squeeze. So this actually, what you're seeing right here, was a big wedge, and it did the same thing. It followed a pattern, and it rose up and then broke down, and then it started to see a rise. And right here was the breakout. And then a few days later, about two trading weeks later, that's when that squeeze happened. And then during this period, from all the way up until May, AMC was rejected off of its resistance, and then it broke down through support on the wedge. But after that, it came back 2 trading weeks later, broke out above the wedge, and then it consolidated a little more, and then it squeezed again. And I think that May 25th was right about the time that I called this. Yeah, so May 25th was when I called the squeeze coming, just based on the sudden surge of volume. Now we're seeing that same pattern again, and this time I think that this might be the final nail in the coffin for the market makers if this does play out. So currently this wedge shows that AMC has been rejected off of its top twice. It had a very brief breakout and bounced off 3 times before it suddenly collapsed, and it stayed below that wedge. It's been falling, but it's never been able to break through that previous support line here. What we would usually call this in a Wyckoff accumulation is this was the previous resistance. This would be preliminary support, and that preliminary support is what we look for the breakdown in order to find our spring. So if this is indeed a Wyckoff accumulation, then what we have is our massive top, and then we have our preliminary support. Here is the first set of resistance, and now this is the new bottom. And if this is the spring, then we rise up and test it again, and then move from there. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the OBV to start rising. I'm looking for volume to start coming back into the stock. It's very close to oversold on the RSI. And if AMC makes a move, then it's more than likely going to fill out this double bottom here. This is the top, bottom, and the next move would be back up to about $33 if it plays out. So if that does play out, then that's the confirmation of the spring that I'm looking for. So I'm really hoping, that this does play out. It's a little bit early. It's a little bit early to tell right now, but if you are interested in taking bets on something like this, then short term, I'd be looking at $30 calls for maybe mid-March. Take quarterlies, just because it gives you a lot of theta. Not financial advice, by the way, but this is how I trade these kinds of moves. If I'm predicting a large move that's going to take an undetermined amount of time, I give myself at least 30, but probably 60 days for the trade to play out. Once I see that confirmation and I see the move, I would expect for it to break out above this wedge and give myself time for that to play out. And if we get that, then look for a little tail of consolidation again. So I would be trying to sell at the top of this and then wait for the consolidation for me to buy another set of calls further out the money. This This is wild speculation, okay? So I want everybody to be very, very clear on what I'm describing here. This is extremely high risk play. It's extremely complicated, and it's not something that I advise anyone to do, especially if you're new to the market and you're not used to trading options. Like if you're a classic ape, then you know what, buy and hold shares that's a strategy that still works. But for the for what I'm looking at and what I'm describing, if the technical patterns that I'm seeing continue to play out, if these wedge breakouts continue, then I'd be looking for them to I'd be looking for a rise past $30, maybe up to $40 by February, March. If we get that confirmation and we suddenly see a surge in volume, then you can bet your ass that I'm going to be expecting another squeeze. And if the past patterns are any indication, then I'm not going to I'm not going to be cheap with my bets. I'll likely be looking for something to continue on this trend line between these two peaks. So this is wild speculation. I do not advise anybody to trade on this information. There's no way for me to know that this is going to happen. We're talking about extremely wild speculative technical patterns, and it's an extremely dangerous way to trade. So please, 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 do not treat this as financial advice and do not trade on this information assuming that it's going to be right. Don't bet stupid amounts of money on a trade like this. If this is if it's something that you're willing to put money on, then and it ends up being right, then you wouldn't have needed much for it to change your life. So I'll say it one more time. This is not financial advice. This is wild, ridiculous speculation. Please be careful with this. I'm just letting people know what my own plan is so that I'm fully transparent, and let everybody know ahead of time that that these are the signs and the symptoms of a short squeeze or a gamma squeeze that I'm looking for with AMC. There's a lot of speculation here. Logical chaos. Second mortgage, got it. Please do not do that. Please,
all of my money in. God, okay.
Please do not. It's not even funny.
Yes,
Oh my
please.
God.
Don't do that. We should just put like instead of the whole watermark we have, we should just put something that just says "don't," just like as the background. Just don't. Like
Right.
anything else, charges. Don't listen to it.
Oh man. That was too funny though. Thank you. I needed that laugh.
Speaking of unusual volume and all that stuff, the Sens, as we were talking about it, obviously was having a good day, and then it had a little bit of a spike in volume, about 250,000, which is a little abnormal for that one. Still rising.
Oh really? Let me double check that I'm not missing anything at work before I continue on this.
Trying to
Okay, I've got a little bit more time.
keep the party going.
Not a whole lot of time, like 15 minutes, and then I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. So I guess I'll give everybody a chance to ask some questions here in the chat. Sorry that I haven't been taking taking all the ticker requests. There's been a lot to go through, and I wanted to get the DD out and introduce Occam. We've got a lot of new analysts on the team, and there's a lot of exciting stuff that we're working on. Currently, I'll go ahead and tease this, but for those of you who have been following me for a while, you may have read my thesis on short exempt squeeze theory. Basically, the theory that when short exempt volume is spiking extremely high and the price is moving up, then indicates that market makers are losing control of the stock and they're not able to suppress the price, indicating that a squeeze is coming. And if that does indeed factor in and play out, then you can see like 100% rises in the stock price in a short period of time. Well, thanks to the fantastic analyst team that we have, and I won't disclose their names just yet, um, unless they're ready to be shouted out on stream. But they have been working together to code up a bot that is going to be available in our Discord on Hell's Trading Floor for everybody to use as they see fit. What this bot will be able to do is it will scan FINRA data and it will look for highly shorted squeeze potential plays, and it will look through the short exempt data to identify ones that have a high short exempt ratio. That's the key factor and the key piece of data that I've been missing throughout all of my squeeze picks, that I haven't been able to like scan through the stock market to find them quickly enough in order to catch them, just because there's so many to go through. Well, I'm here to tell you that we have something that is actually working, that identified several stock plays that are potential squeeze picks. And I'm going to point one out that it identified, but we didn't look into just yet. But on December 26th, there was a high amount of short interest or short exempts that occurred throughout December 26th down to December 31st in 2021 on this particular stock. This is ATHE, or Alterity Therapeutics Limited. We did not do any DD on this company. We didn't know anything about them. We had absolutely no clue that anything was going to happen to them. But our tool that we used identified this out of a group of over 2,000 stocks. It identified this one as one of a top 10 stocks that were candidates for a squeeze based on the short exempt theory and the math that was put together by the team in order to identify this. And then 6 days later, after the short exempt data printed that indicated this, that set off the signal, 6 days later on January 6th, it hit its top and made a massive rise, and you can see the volume just absolutely surged. So I'm not saying that this was that I cannot credit that we found and played this and that we made a huge profit off of it. We didn't even notice it, but we went back through our data and realized that this was called out to us. And it isn't the only one. It's just one of the more obvious ones because of the huge volume spike. So this is something that I'm bringing to our Discord, and we're going to be working together to make this available to everybody as soon as possible. It's still in the works, but the hope is that Hell's Trading Floor will be able to identify potential squeeze plays with more certainty based on this squeeze signal theory. Because so far, every time that I've applied it, and identified a good solid stock pick that, in combination with the short exempts, the rising in price, and some basic fundamental data as well as options data, it played out in our favor. So be on the lookout for that. And if you're not a member of our Discord, Hell's Trading Floor, please check out the links in the description, and we'll be very happy to welcome you into the community. It's a very friendly community. Despite the name, it's not all suffering and woe all the time. We do actually occasionally make money here. So if you're interested in joining a friendly community of traders that are entirely focused on the DD and not the drama, please consider joining us. Link to our Patreon is in the description of this video, as well as in the comments, and you can also check it out in my bio line on Twitter. Let's see. Can you guys think of anything else that I've been missing?
Taking a look here. Anyone in Discord or on YouTube chat have any questions or anything before we finish up?
Oh yes, there are a couple of stock picks. Okay, so someone wanted a call out on BFRI. Looks like it broke down through this early trend that we had set up. I'm going to go ahead and delete these. This could be setting up to enter into a wedge. Looks, excuse me. Looks like we got some consolidation forming here. We'll see if it bounces. But this could just be like a really wonky, sharp head and shoulders pattern. It's hard to say. This is some huge moves here. There's not a whole lot for me to work with in terms of technicals. The only thing that I can tell you is that the OBV plateaued here and indicates that the volume dropped out, so the price fell. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of I know that we called this one out in Hell's Trading Floor. A couple of people were playing this, so I'm hoping that it'll make a rebound. But there's not a whole lot of technicals for me to work with here. I'm not sure why this one isn't printing its history. There we go. That's better. Oh, I see. It's the hourly chart. That's why.
There's no options either for it, so
Yeah.
kind of hard to get a beat on momentum in that realm.
Yeah, kind of a bummer. But now that I look at it here on the hourly chart, starting to form a bit of a U here. So who knows? Maybe it's getting ready for a rebound. It did sell off pretty precipitously, and the OBV is still completely stagnant, hasn't moved at all. So that could be worth looking into. We'll keep an eye on this one.
Yeah. Nice little gap fill above it too, from what I can see there. Little $1-2, but still gets momentum.
Let's see. Hertz Global was another one that we were looking at. This one was actually identified by our squeeze picker. That's not an endorsement. I don't know that this is going to play out, but the short exempts on this one were particularly high very recently, and there's some upward momentum, more than 5% on a daily basis. So if this continues to follow suit, what were we looking at this one for, Occam? We said if it rose up to 27, then enter some calls for 30 days out.
Yeah, let me, I don't want to misspeak. Let me pull up my hertz real quick. Yeah, 26 and a half, 2680, 27. Yeah, early. I mean, if you want to, this would be a pure lotto, but I mean, you could maybe early enter 25, 80, 26. But I mean, I would personally be looking at a break over that 27 and a little bit of confirmation to hold. But there would be some room to run because I think it's the $35 calls that are being targeted.
That's right. Yeah, we saw an unusual whales print on this, didn't we?
Yes, correct. Yeah, unusual whales, and I believe it was Verde and I that were going back and forth a little bit about it last night in the Discord.
And what was that expiration?
That was
Feb 18th.
That sounds right. 218. That sounds correct. But let me just confirm that. Hold on, let me go back. The 218s. Yeah. Yep.
Cool. We're looking for money right here.
There it is.
All right, that's where we're going to find the money.
This one's, that's high speculation though.
Yep.
Real high speculation.
Yep. This is huge speculation. But what I'll say is that the options flow is supporting that $35 strike is what's being targeted. Those were all bought to open, right?
Yeah, it seems. Let me just go back. But this morning when I checked, the open interest seemed to confirm the thesis last night that it was buy to open.
Okay. So what we're looking for is for us to break this this falling resistance here. If we see a breakout here, then we might be following some of those calls. So we'll see what happens. I think that is unfortunately all I have time for. I want to thank everybody for taking a look at these picks with us and joining us for the stream. I apologize that I can't stay any longer. I still have to work, and my throat is just absolutely killing me. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next